Hey, welcome back to All Things New. And today's going to be a little bit of a different setup just because. And so I'm not even sure what I'm going to title this, something to the effect of like a trio of doubles or a trio of duos. But I just want to run through, I've got two prayer requests and two thoughts that I want to go through and two of the best types of prayer. And so we're just going to hit a couple of doubles. One last thing before we get right into it. Next month, Tuesday, May 23rd, is going to be a very special episode on dealing with grief. And I know I've been talking about it a lot, but I think it's really important that we learn and understand how to do that well. And it'll just so happen to fall on a very difficult anniversary for me. And so I want to share that with you. That is coming up next month, Tuesday, May 23rd. Okay, so today, I want to share with you two personal prayer requests, and I don't do this very often either. I don't like to talk about my personal convictions unless it's with close friends and family because they're personal, right? If those are things that the Spirit has convicted me on, well, then those should not become hoops for you to jump through, right? Those are my hoops. And because the Spirit has given them to me, logic would dictate, and experience has taught me that this is true, that He's given me the grace to jump through those hoops. And so for me to put those hoops up for you, if the Spirit has not given you the conviction to do those things, well, then you probably don't have the grace to do those things either. And so now you have become burdened by my convictions. And I just think that's so wrong and damaging and harmful and unnecessary, right? We're to bear one another's burdens, not become one another's burdens. And so, and I don't share personal prayer requests very often. I'm kind of rethinking how I do prayer as a whole anyway. So, but that said, well, let's just stop right there. I just typically don't. But tomorrow is going to be a very big day for me on a personal level. Quite frankly, it'll probably be life changing one way or the other. I doubt it will be a very neutral day. It will be a win or a loss. And I believe, I'm very confident it will be a win, right? God works all things together for the good of those who love Him. And I'm not saying God's on my side and not on the other, right? We learned that in Joshua as captain of the Lord's army. So, but I say that to say this. It's going to be a huge day for my family and me. My wife, my kids, and I will be impacted by this extremely, one way or the other. And so, and most of you, some of you watching this will know what that is. Most of my friends and family know exactly what's going on. I just don't know that it's really appropriate to discuss more in detail. And so I want to leave it right there. Just be praying for the Byrne family tomorrow if you think about it, and I would appreciate that. And number two, I wrote this down in my journal. I do a devotional journal as often as I remember, and am disciplined to do so. I'm just going to read this journal entry so you all know my heart. It says this: I feel torn between two worlds and two callings. I feel the need to be an influence in politics, but also dream of ministry. Can these two coexist in harmony and be equally effective, or does one lessen the impact of the other? This is my issue. I can't see how to navigate the next 40 years at all. And even though I feel both worlds calling to me, both seem impossibly and irrevocably out of reach. Listen, that's just a personal thing. And when I say politics, I'm not thinking of running for president. I know that's kind of the going thing right now. Everyone is running for president in 2024. But no, I'm thinking even something so much smaller as far as exposure, but like school board, like mayor, is kind of a smaller thing. But it's pulling at my heart. But ministry has pulled at my heart since I was, I don't know, 13, 16, somewhere in that range. And about 18 or 19, I just decided this is what I want to do with the rest of my life. And so when I say I dream of ministry, it is no exaggeration. It is no small thing in my heart. And so anyway, so tomorrow and then, the rest of my life. If you can remember and throw up a prayer, I'd appreciate it. Okay. Now, why do I normally not talk about my own prayer requests, and why am I doing it now? Well, Peter gives us a good indicator where he says, resist the devil and he will flee from you. And I love how he ends that verse where he says, knowing that your brothers around the world go through the same kinds of trials. And so I think one of the biggest lies the devil ever tells us is that we are alone. And whatever we're going through, that we are alone. And it is such a lie. And so I wanted to share that because I bet there are others out there who are watching this who at times have felt alone. And I want to tell you that you are not alone. I'm here with you. I think that's a Michael Jackson song. But we are not alone. Right? We just passed Easter, and one of the many messages of the cross, I think it has a great many messages, but one of the many messages of the cross is that we are not alone. We are never, ever again alone. And so I think two of the most powerful prayers that we see in Scripture are when Jesus was feeding the 5,000 and he breaks the bread and blesses it and gives thanks. And then another one is when he's walking on water. And Peter calls out to him and says, Lord, Lord, if it's you, call me out to you. And Peter begins to walk on the water. And as he's sinking, he just cries out to Jesus and he says, help. And I think two of the most powerful prayers that you and I will ever utter from our lips are thank you and help. And I think that's good in life too. I think that's good for our communities and for our small groups and for our churches and for our homes and families and work, and thank you and help. I think those two words or two phrases, 3 words, I think those can be life-changing. And so anyway, those are the 2 prayer requests. I thank you for praying with me, but I am asking for a little help specifically tomorrow and as I navigate, again, the next 40 years of my life. So, okay. 2 thoughts. So we've done 2 types of prayer, 2 prayer requests specific to me. Here are just 2 closing thoughts, and I might touch on this more next week. But number 1, I had this thought a couple of days ago, and since that time, I have not had a chance to read the entirety of all 4 Gospels. So I'm doing this mostly from memory. I think that I cannot find a scripture where Jesus tells us to pray for the sick. I think his word usage is heal the sick. If I am remembering correctly, and again, I'm going to go through this in the next couple of weeks, and I'm going to search this out. I think I am accurate in saying that Jesus never commanded anyone to pray for the sick, but rather to heal the sick. And if you even go to James chapter 5, where James is saying, call for the elders of the church to pray for the sick, the verse doesn't end there. It says, so that they might be healed. So even in the one verse in James, which talks about praying for the sick, the end thought of that verse is that they would be healed. So the expectation for praying for the sick was that healing would occur. And Jesus, again, to my knowledge, to my memory, and I've got to keep searching out the rest of the Gospels, I'm getting close there, but he doesn't say pray for the sick, he says heal the sick. And so coming off of last week and the 4 pillars, the 4 walls of my house, that there would be demonstrations of spirit and of power. And I feel God is leading me specifically to a healing ministry. I've had a teaching and a prophetic ministry for years now, but I feel like healing is what's right around the corner. And so that's a thought that I've been having and I'm kind of excited to explore. And the last thought is when he says heal the sick, when Jesus says heal the sick, he goes on to say, and cleanse the leper. And the thought there is, isn't leprosy a sickness? Aren't lepers sick? So what is the distinction between healing the sick and cleansing the leper? And I think there's a twofold reason. Let's talk about that next week. Okay, this is a weird cliffhanger, but let's talk about leprosy next week. I've got 2 thoughts on leprosy, and I think they'll be great. So, man, as always, thank you all so much for watching, and sure do appreciate you. I'll talk to you next week. Bye.